So till now we have discussed on client side, client script, and then we also looked into different APIs which are available on the client side, such as your G underscore form and G underscore user. So all this we have already discussed. Today we will be focusing on another client side area wherein we can do some configuration within system. We don't use a lot of code there, but we do a configuration in order to achieve certain validations on the client side. When I say validation, it is like your mandatory, read only, visible, not visible. Okay. So today we are going to discuss about UI policy within ServiceNow. Okay. So what is UI policy? Defines the behavior and visibility of a of fields on a form. So basically, with UI policy, you should be able to do all these things. Okay. Majorly, you will be doing like if you want to make anything mandatory, you want to make anything visible, or you want to make any field a read only. Okay, visible, read only, and opposite. Let's say you have to make something non-mandatory also. Based on certain condition, you can do that. Okay, via UI policy. Why to use UI policy? Same thing you can do via client script also. Same thing you can do via UI policies. UI policies are like most of configuration. You don't write a lot of code here. But with respect to there, if there is any complex condition that okay, one field is changing, then another field value is setting to something, then you have to do certain action on third field. This becomes a little complex condition. Certain conditions which you are not able to achieve via UI policy, you go with client script there. Okay, and then client script and UI policies have its own advantage. For example, with respect to UI policy, you just do a little code configuration wherein from the drop down you select the field value that okay, if this value is this, then make it mandatory. If this is like this, make it read only. All that you can do via configuration. We'll look into that. But with respect to client script, you have developers power wherein you can write complex condition. You can set up something on uh, on change of particular field, and then you can do also certain thing related to list view configuration. All that you can do via your client script, but you will not be able to achieve most of the things related to that via your policy. It is a simple configuration from ServiceNow end to make a field visible, read only, and mandatory. Okay. Every time whenever you are writing UI policy, most of the time ideally you should write conditions so that your UI policy does not get executed on every time whenever your form is loading. Okay, you should build up certain conditions so that it is bound to a condition. If that condition only holds true, then only your UI policy should execute. But if you, let's say, you are not putting any condition, what will happen? Eventually, every time your script will keep on executing whenever form is loading or whenever some action is happening on the form. Then eventually it will lead to slowness in your form or slowness on your platform. Okay, so whatever condition you are putting in UI policy, that should be true. Then only your UI actions will happen. Whatever the UI policy actions will happen, which means if you have written UI policy action to make any field mandatory, it will become mandatory. If the condition is false, then it will not happen. As simple as that. Then another important thing is UI policies always execute after client script, which means whatever logic you have written in client script, that will get executed first. Then whatever logic you have written in UI policy will get executed last. Let's take an example. There is one particular field called state. Okay, you have made state as mandatory field via client script. Okay, but same you have written the condition in UI policy and you have made that field as non-mandatory in UI policy. So eventually what will happen when, because client script is executing first, it will make it mandatory. Your form is loading, it will, for a fraction of a second, it will look like it is a mandatory. But the moment the form load ends completely, right, the field will become non-mandatory because client script already executed after that UI policy executed. So it has overridden whatever you have written on the client script for same field. If you are making mandatory read only like that. Okay, so this is one important question from interview perspective, that UI policy executes after client script, which means anything which you are doing in UI policy will have precedence. Okay. Client scripts can also hide fields, show fields, and make fields mandatory. Same thing, like even with respect to client script also you can use g underscore form dot set mandatory. If you put, you can make mandatory. But ServiceNow itself promote low code, so most of the time we should seek an option of configuration then rather than actual coding. So ServiceNow itself says that okay, try to do lot of configuration and not writing too much of code, so that so they have basically provided one another separate module to do mandatory these simple conditions called UI policy. Okay, so you should utilize UI policy whenever you are getting any requirement wherein you have to make anything mandatory, read only or visible. Try check whether I can achieve this particular requirement via UI policy or not. If you are not able to achieve, then surely you should go ahead with your client script. Okay, always use UI policy instead of client script if you can, for faster load times and easier maintenance. This is what we discussed just now. Okay, so let's say if you have to go within system, how do you go and check your UI policy? All the UI policy, you have to just type UI policy within your application navigator, and you should be getting something called UI policies. So you'll get list of all the UI policies which are available in system. Then to create a new UI policy, you have to just new button, and then something like this type of a form will appear. Again, with respect to UI policy, also it is always bound to a specific table. When I say specific table, they will execute to a specific form only. Whatever table you are selecting at the top, in the table field, it will be executing on that table only. It will not execute on any other table. And then you have something called short description. You can give any meaningful name. It is a mandatory field because you should be knowing what your UI policy are being doing. So you can give any meaningful name here. And then third will be when to apply. When to apply is where you build up a condition. So if you see, so when to run, this is the condition block. Okay, this is the area where you actually start doing conditions. So it will not be like you are writing condition, rather than these will be drop down fields. You can select those field names here, whatever table you have selected above it. Those field tables, those table fields will be available here, and you can build up a condition. When this condition will get true only, your UI policy actions will execute, which means your mandatory, visible, non-visible will be executing. So if you see in UI policy action, it shows only three options: mandatory, visible, read only. So if you put mandatory true, which means that field will become mandatory. That without filling that particular field, you cannot proceed further. If you put mandatory false, that will become non-mandatory, and you can bypass that field. Similarly, if you put visible true, which means that field will be visible on the form. Okay, if you put visible false, that field itself will not be visible on the form. When you put leave alone, you are saying to the system that leave alone, don't do anything with respect to this for visibility. Same thing goes read only. When you put read only true, what will happen? That field will be read only, and you will not be able to put any text, or you will not be able to change value of that particular field. But if you put read only false, your that field will be editable for as simple as that. Okay. It is a very simple form wherein you are just able to put table, short description, and condition builder. A very simple way. If you are coming from a very non-coder background, or you don't have much idea on coding, UI policy is one of the best way by which you can just make try to achieve small tasks like mandatory, read only, and visible, not visible, because you have to just build that logic via condition builder in when to apply section. Okay. Certain examples are there. Let's go through that in our instance. Okay, so let me open my instance. So again, if I have to go and type search for UI policy, I will go and put UI policy. Okay, policies. So what will happen under system UI? I will be getting all the UI policies, whatever I have in my system. I can directly go. It will give me a list of all the UI policies on different table present within system. Or if I have to go and build up something on my incident, and I don't want to go to the entire one, I can type incidents and what I can do, I can simply go ahead and I can try to click configure and UI policies. Okay, UI policies. I'll click on that. So this will give me list of all the UI policies which are there on my incident table based on certain conditions. And if I have to create something new, I will hit new button. It will automatically pick up, like we have seen in client scripts also. If you are going through that particular table, then it will pick up, but still it will give you chance to, if you wish, you can change that particular table view. Okay. So let's say on my incident form, I want to make certain thing mandatory. Okay. Let's say I want description also to be mandatory. So what I will do, I'll put some text here. Make what I want to do here. I will put the text. Make description. So what will happen whenever my form will be loading? I can put up certain condition. So we'll see this in two ways. One way will be we will be putting certain condition, and one way we will not be putting any condition. So right now I'm not putting any conditions, and even right now you are not able to see that UI policy action is not there here, right? So what I will do basically, I will save this form. The moment I save this form, what happens is here my UI policy actions will come into the picture, and here I will click new, and whatever field I have to make mandatory, visible, not visible, I can select that. So let me make description as mandatory field. So I will set it true. So the moment I set true, and because my UI policy doesn't have any condition, what will happen whenever this form will load, description will be mandatory. You see, it is mandatory. It will be mandatory throughout. Okay. So this is a very simple example. Okay, wherein I am trying to make a particular field mandatory based upon certain condition. So let me go back and explain you guys what is this form. So you see here, right? I have not put in any condition. So what is happening? It is executed on load whenever my form is loading. Every time this field will be, even if I'm changing my states also, this field will remain mandatory. But let's say I wanted to put this description field or some other field. Let me pick up any other field. Let's say service offering. Okay. There is this field service offering. I want to make this particular field mandatory if my state is in progress. Okay. So how do I go and create that? What I will have to do, let me go to UI policies. I'll select table as incident because I wanted to do it on incident table. Okay. Okay. So I want to do that. So I will put condition here now, like state. So here you will get multiple option of putting the condition. You see, is I wanted to make when state is in progress during that time only. But here I'm not getting state changes to, right? So if I have to write certain condition wherein certain field changes to something, then I will have to go via client script. So I'm putting like if state is in progress, then only you make it mandatory. Okay. So let me save this. My UI policy got saved. Now I will have to write UI policy action. So I will click new. So I can select my field service offering. I selected that field and I want to make it mandatory. So I'll put mandatory and I hit save button. There are multiple UI policies with same order. Okay. Because what is happening if you go and check this UI policy, there will be one field called order, because everything is having same order. That's why it is throwing that type of warning message. In the list view, we can see this. There is something called order. You see here. So if so many UI policies are executing on same order, then what will happen? System will feel very difficult to decide, because when you put order, right, the scripts with lower order get executed first, and the script with higher order will get executed later. Same problem will happen. Let's say if you are making a particular field as mandatory in one thing, in UI policy itself, and then again you are making non-mandatory with UI policy with same order, system will get confused. So you see, most of the script UI policy order on incident form is 100. That's why system is warning us that all your UI policies, they have same order. So system may behave little abrupt, because it is not able to decide, because everything is coming at same priority. It is not able to justify whether I have to make it mandatory, non-mandatory. And if with the God's grace your conditions also matches, then it becomes very difficult for system to understand whether to make it mandatory or non-mandatory. That's why system itself will throw a warning type of a message that, okay, first you are putting everything on same order, give a proper order so that I will be able to put it. So even if it is giving the name also, see, hide offering, service offering, there is one another UI policy which is having same type of order. Okay, so this is one another. Okay, it is on configuration item. If configuration item is network, then it is hiding service offering. But the problem is what, these two UI policies, they are having same order. That's why system is getting confused and throwing that error. Okay, let's see if I am going to change my state of incident to in progress, what happens, whether my field is getting, as of now it is non-mandatory, you can see clearly. Okay, so I'll just hit save button. Okay, now let me change my incident state to in progress. So see, the moment I change my state from to in progress, it became mandatory. If I put something else, see, it is becoming non-mandatory. But if again if I put it, it is becoming mandatory, right? I will not be able to save this form because it is mandatory now. So, you understood, right? Like we can put up multiple conditions to build our UI policies. One we saw with condition and one we saw without conditions. So this. So we saw two types of UI policy, one with condition builder, wherein we are building up a condition. If condition is getting true, which means the state is changing to new only, your what to say, UI policy is executing. If it is something else, then your UI policy is not executing. So it is not mandatory. And then when one more we saw without a condition, wherein what happens is without any condition, it will execute on all states, irrespective of whatever your state is on hold or anything. You see, this description field is mandatory only, right? So in order to make any field mandatory, read only, visible, not visible, you can do that. Okay, so let's say I want to in the same field wherein state is in progress. I want to make description as read only. So what I will do, read only. But one thing is there, if you are making any particular field as read only, okay, and mandatory, because it is mandatory also and it is read only also, you should make sure that that field has a value. You see, I cannot put anything in description because it is read only. I cannot write anything in description. Let me change it back to new. I can update it to something. Test, I save it when it is in new. But same thing, let me make it in progress and try to put it some value. I'm not able to, I cannot edit this field now because it is read only for me. I can only read this value, but I cannot update anything here. Okay. Similarly, if I have to make any particular field, let's say not visible on the form. For example, I don't want this channel field to be visible on state is in progress. Again, I will go back and I will put a condition. State is in progress. So I wanted to do this value. So what I will do, I will make channel as read only. So I'll go ahead and I'll select the channel and I'll make it visible false. So whenever will state will change to in progress, my channel field will get invisible. Let me reload this. Okay. So if you see, right, my channel field is visible at the moment. My description field is still editable and my service offering is non-mandatory. The moment I hit in progress, my channel field at the top was there. That is gone. That is not visible on the form. My service service offering is now mandatory and description is a read only field. Okay. So these are certain things which we can directly achieve via UI policy. You see, right, I have not written any code. I have just built up certain condition through condition builder, which was provided by ServiceNow. So I have built that condition and then I have just made, field as mandatory read only. That's it. So this is the condition on which I am taking certain actions, okay, on my UI policy. So this is red dot is nothing but a warning that you are executing everything on the same order. So if you change the order of that UI policy, your this thing will change. So let me put it something like 900 so that it doesn't matches. Most probably it should go as, unless and until it is conflicting with some other thing. So you see that red dot went. Why? Because I've changed the order of my UI policy to 900, which is not matching now with any other order. That's why that red type of warning which was coming right now, it is not there. Which means now my system has a clear picture when to make it mandatory visible marks. Okay. So let's close this and go into PPT. So we saw, different thing related to UI policy, the conditions and how we can build what is UI action. Okay. And then how to make it mandatory read only. We saw all this. Okay. So with this, our client side basic, client script and UI policy, these two scripting areas comes to an end. We are going to move towards UI action. What is UI action? We will try to cover up on